Hmm. So when display method is invoked on an object of type B, the version of display defined within B is used. That is, the version of display inside B overrides the version of version declared in A. If we use if you wish to access superclass version of overridden method, we can do so by using super. The meaning of this is, see, if suppose display method I am calling from class B, but if I want to call display method present in superclass also, then we can write the statement like this: super dot display. So from this line, what we can say, it will call the superclass display method present in superclass also. For example, in this version of B, class B, so superclass version of display within subclass version is invoked within subclass version. This allows all instance variables to be initialized. Okay. So the meaning of this is, so whenever you use super keyword along with the method, that method is also called. So if we substitute this version of class B in the previous program, so output will be changed. So output, why it will change means because you see what happens. Yeah. Why output is changed? Because display method of class A is also executed, right? Display method of class A is also executed. In display method of class A, we are displaying I and j values. Okay. In display method of class B, we are displaying k value. In display method of class A, we are displaying I and j values. So I and j values already it is given. So it is stored in memory. So it is displayed. So look here, I and j 1, 2, k is 3 like this because we are calling super.display. Now here super.display calls the superclass version of display. Whatever the method present in superclass, that is display method, that will be called. Okay. Only thing is in this concept, in this topic, the important thing is like we have to understand super.display means it will call the method present in superclass. Okay. Okay, now we'll move to the next topic. Okay. So method overriding occurs only when names and type signature of the two methods are identical. If they are not, then two methods are simply overloaded. See, we have two things: method overloading and method overriding. In case of method overloading, either it should be the different number of parameters or different data type. One condition should match. If you are using same number of parameters, change the data type. If you are using different number of parameters, if you're using different number of parameters, then you will not worry about the data type. If you're using same data type, then change the number of like that. That means at least one condition should match. But if both the conditions are not matching, that means if there is no different number of parameters or if there is no change in the data type, then that is called as method overriding. So in case of method overriding, see, method overriding occurs only when the names and type signature. Names and type signature means name means function name. Type signature means data type and the number of parameters. Okay, data type and the number of parameters. If both are same, if there is no change in the function name, if there is no change in the number of parameters and data type, then it is called as method overriding. Of the two methods are identical. If they are not, that means if you are not following that rule, if you are changing in the number of parameters or if you are changing in the data type, then that those two methods are called simply overloaded. So you have to call it as method overloading. So in interview, you may get a question: what is the difference between method overloading, and method overriding? So you should say same thing. Like if there is a change in the number of parameters or the data type of the parameters, then it is called as method overloading. If there is no change in the number of parameters and data type of the parameters, then it is called as overriding. So for number of parameters and data type, you can simply call it as type signature. What you can say is, if there is a change in the type signature, then it is method overloading. If there is no change in the type signature, that is called as method overriding. Okay, that complete set is called as signature. That is first line of the function. Now you see. methods with the differing type signature or overloaded, not overridden. Okay, so same thing they are used in this example. Here display method in class A, no parameters. Okay, same thing. Previous example only they have taken. Some modification is there. We will see what is that. In class B, display method is there. You see, you just compare the display method of class B and class A. You can notice the difference. In class A, if you look at the display method, first line type signature, there is no parameters. So no parameters, no parameter list. And if you look at the class B, first line void display string MSG message. Here is a difference. The difference is one parameter we have used. So there is a change in the display method of class A, no parameters. In the display method of class B, there is a parameter. So there is a change. So this type of things are called as overloading, not overriding. Okay. So overload display. Now we will see in the main method what happens. Sub-OB object we have created from class B. Sub-OB.display, sub-OB.display. Two times I have used. We will see what happens here. Sub-OB.display of this is K. When this line is executed, you just say within opening parenthesis and closing parenthesis, I have used one value. Value is string value here. So I have put in double quotes, right? That is called a string value. So if you look at the previous line, I have used the values 1, 2, 3, all integer values. And if you look at this line, I have used one string value. So when you are using one string value, you look at the method where string is present. Okay, you look at the method where string is present. In class A and class B, both you look. So in class B, it is present. In class B, display method is there. String parameter is present. String MSG. So this method will be called. So you look at the comment here. This calls display in B. Next. By using sub-OB object only, you can call display method of A because it is inheritance, right? B is a subclass of A. So by using subclass object, you can call the superclass methods because of inheritance concept, right? So when this line is executed, what happens? This will call the display method in A because here I have not used any parameters. There is no parameters in display method. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis without any parameters. That is without any value. Then you will go to the method where there is no parameters. So where there is no parameters means like display method present in class A. So this method is executed. Okay, understood. So by using subclass object only, we can call method present in subclass, method present in superclass. How means like when you pass the parameter, it will go to the subclass method because in subclass method a parameter is there. When you write without parameters, it will go to the superclass method because there is no parameter. Okay, you look at this diagram. Come to know. See, B sub OB is equals to new B of 1, 2, 3. So same thing as in the previous program. 1, 2, 3 values are passed. Super of A, B. When super keyword is encountered in a program, the program control will move to the superclass constructor. A and B values are copied to I and J. So class A, I value is 1, J value is 2. Then K is equals to C. K refers to only subclass B. So K value is 3. Now these two lines are very important. Sub-OB dot display of this is K, sub-OB dot display without any parameters. So when sub-OB dot display of this is K is executed, this calls display method in B. When sub-OB dot display of without any parameters, if you write, this calls display method in A. So we get the output in this way. That is, both the methods are executed. So this is K, I and J. So this is K message is present in class B. I and J, this message is present in class A. Okay. So just look at this diagram, memory representation, and this how program control is passed to methods. So if you have any doubts, you can ask. So some explanation is present with the above program. The version of display in B takes a string parameter. The version of display in B takes a single parameter, that is string parameter. This makes its type signature different from the one in class A, which takes no parameters. Therefore, no overriding or name hiding takes place. That means it is not called as method overriding, it is called as method overriding. Okay. Instead the version of display in B simply overloads the version of display in A. So here what they are telling, we should not call this method overriding concept, you have to call it as method overloading concept. If you want to call method overriding, same thing should be there. Function name, parameter list, number of parameters, data type of the parameters, everything should be same. But here it is different. In class B, there is one parameter. In class A, there is no parameter. So we should call it as just method overloading. Okay. Next topic is called as dynamic method dispatch. Okay. Okay. So we will see what it is. Method overriding forms the basis of one of Java's most powerful concepts, dynamic method dispatch. There is a concept called as dynamic method dispatch. So how we got that concept, or what is the basis for that concept, is method overriding. Okay. So they're telling method overriding forms the basis for Java's most powerful concept, that is dynamic method dispatch. Dynamic method dispatch is a mechanism by which a call to an overridden method is resolved at the runtime rather than the compile time. Dynamic method dispatch is important because this is how Java implements runtime polymorphism. See, now we are getting the concept of polymorphism. Actually, polymorphism concept till now we have saw in inheritance, method overloading, method overriding, polymorphism concept only it is there. But this is runtime polymorphism. There are two things: compile time polymorphism, runtime polymorphism. So runtime means during execution. Compile time means before the program starts executing. So wherever you come across the word compile, compilation, compile time, you have to understand that before the program starts executing. Okay. And when you come across runtime, dynamic, this is nothing but during program execution. So you should not say after program execution. It is during program execution. So during program execution, whatever the polymorphism concept we have, that is called as dynamic method dispatch. So dynamic method dispatch is a mechanism by which a call to an overridden method is resolved at runtime rather than the compile time. Dynamic method dispatch is important because this is how Java implements runtime polymorphism. So in this example, we will see. So how dynamic method dispatch concept is present in the program. Okay. So class A there is a method called as call me. Okay, method name it is. Okay. Next, system.println inside A's call me method. Say how they are writing the message, just to know which method is called. We will write the message. That's all. Inside A's call me method, you can write any message here. Okay. Next, same thing in class B. Inside class B's call me method. So from this statement, you can say there is a method overriding concept because everything is same. Void call me with no parameters, void call me with no parameters. So this concept is called as method overriding. Same thing in class C. Okay. So in class C, what we are doing, one more time we are calling the method, writing the method call me. Okay. So it is called as method overriding. So two times we have done method overriding. Okay. So message you have to change. So inside class B is call me method, inside class C call me method. Next, we will go for the main method, that is class dispatch. Okay. Just a minute. So just I made it a set, one set, object declaration, giving a reference, calling the method, giving a reference, calling the method, like that. A is equals to new A, object A is object for class A is created, object for class B is created, B is equals to new B, C is equals to new C, object for class C is created. So capital letters indicates the class names here, small letters indicates the object names. Okay. Next, obtain a reference of type A. We will see what is the meaning of this. When you look at this line, A, small letter R, A is a class name, right? A is a class name. And coming to the R, you should not call it as actual object, it is object reference. I hope you people are remembering the object reference concept. When we don't use the new keyword, you can call it as object reference. Why we are calling it as an object reference in the sense that object reference variable, you can refer to any actual object. Okay, you can refer to any actual object. So only word they are using reference. Refer means you can refer to anything. In the next line, you will come to know how we are referring. R is equals to A. R is equals to A means R refers to an A object. That means class A object. How we are telling it refers to class A object, just you can understand. You look at the RHS here, R is equals to A, you look at the RHS. A, small letter A, small letter A is the object of class A. That is actual object. So it is not object reference, it is actual object because new keyword is there, memory is allocated. Now, whenever you say R is equals to A, so because A is, small letter A is the actual object of class A, so we can say R refers to an A object, that is class A object. Understood? Similarly, for time being, don't worry about this. Like I will explain. Next, when you say R is equals to B, what happens? Same variable R. Say, just concentrate here. Letter is R. There is no change in the variable object reference R. When you say R is equals to B, R refers to B object, that is class B. When you say R is equals to C, R refers to C object. So only whenever you come across object reference in the sense that object reference variable can be referred to any actual object. So R is equals to A indicates it is referring to class A object. R is equals to B, it is referring to class B object. R is equals to C, it is referring to class C object. Okay. Okay, we will look at the diagram for next lines of execution. So now the things what we have understood is small letters A, B, C are the objects created of type class A, class B and class C. A, small letter R indicates the object reference of class A. Then whenever I say R is equals to A or R is equals to B or R is equals to C, what happens? That object reference R will be referring to class A, will be referring to class B, will be referring to class C. Okay. Okay, in the diagram you see A is equals to new A, object A is created. B is equals to new B, object B is created. C is equals to new C, object C is created. And whenever objects are created, there is a method call me, right? That method you have to write in all the classes. Like for object A, call me method is there. For object B, call me method is there. For object C, call me method is there. Because whenever you consider the class, two things are there: instance variables, methods. Both you have to consider for object. So if you look at the boxes, what I have done, in every memory representation, first box I have left it as blank, indicating instance variables. Because instance variables we are not using. In any classes, we are not using instance variables. Only method you have to use. In the second column, that is in the second box, I have written call me method. For each class, it is there. Next, see when you say AR, small letter R is called as object reference. And when you say R is equals to A, when you say R is equals to A, what is the meaning of that? It is referring to class A. So only you look at the memory representation, how it is. Small letter A, small letter R, both refer to class A. Understood? Small letter A, small letter R, both refers to class A. And when you say R is equals to B, small letter R, both refers to class B. And when you say R is equals to C, small letter R, both refers to class A. Now, you look at the statements R dot call me. Okay. So when you say R dot call me method is present in all the classes, right? In class A, class B, class C. It is present in all the classes. So when you call the method call me by using R variable, first you have to say to which class it is referring. That means object reference you have taken it as R. To which class it is referring. When where you will come to know to which class it is referring? Just before that line. Before R dot call me line only, we will come to know to which class it is referring. So it is referring to class A. R is equals to A means it is referring to class A because small letter A is the object of class A. So only R dot call me will call the method which is present in class A. R dot call me will call the method which is present in class A. So calls A version of call me. Next, you change the object reference. Instead of referring to A, you refer to B. R is equals to B. That means it refers to class B. When it refers to class B, and again when you write R dot call me, it will call the method present in class B. Okay, because you are changing the object reference. Initially you are making it to class A, and you are referring to class B. So when you say R dot call me, it will call the method present in class B. And when you again change the reference, when you say R is equals to C, R dot call me will call the method present in class C. Okay, you look at the memory representation. Okay, we'll come to know how it is changing. So R is equals to A, R dot call me calls the method present in class A. R is equals to B, R dot call me calls the method present in class B. R is equals to C, R dot call me calls the method present in class C. This process is done at runtime, that is during program execution. So it is called as runtime polymorphism. See, polymorphism meaning poly means many, morphism means forms, many forms. That means if you consider one particular working name, if you consider, if it changes differently in different situations. See, best example I will give, like our in real world only I will give example, like our facial expression. Okay, if we look at the small child, how our expression will be if it smiles, and if suddenly if I look at a snake, how our expression will be. That means face is same but expression changes, smiling, getting afraid, getting angry. So the expression will change. Here also same thing you have to consider. Method name is call me only, but when you call on the variable r dot call me, each time it is changing. First time it is calling the method present in class A, second time it is calling the method present in class B, third time it is calling the method present in class C. Why like that? Because reference we are changing. First time we are referring to class A, second time we are referring to class B, third time we are referring to class A. So method name is class call me only, but it is changing depending on the situations. So this is called as polymorphism. So method name should be same, working process should be different. So in class A, working process is the message is inside class A call me method. In the class B, inside B's call me method. In class C, inside C call me method. If you just change one letter also, we can say working process is different. Okay, this is called runtime polymorphism. Okay, you can look at this diagram. So just for a minute, and if you come across any doubts, you can ask. Okay, the above program creates one superclass called A and two subclasses of it B and C. Subclass B and C override call me in declared in A. Inside the method, main method, objects of type A, B, C and declared. Also, a reference of type A is type A called R is reached. The program then in turn assigns a reference to each object of object R and uses that reference to invoke call me method. As the output shows, the version of call me method is executed is determined by the type of the object being referred to at the time of call. So here what we have to understand is, like even though I have created AR, okay, for the first time, class A and object reference variable R. Whenever you refer to the actual object, depending on that object, method is called. So that is the important thing here. So they're telling that only. See, the program in turn assigns a reference to each type of object to R and uses that reference to invoke call me method. So whenever you call the call me method, from which class it should call, that depends on the object reference. If you are saying R is equals to B, it will call from the class B. If you are saying R is equals to C, it will call from the class C. If you are saying R is equals to A, it will call from the class A. So as the output shows, the version of call me method is executed is determined by the type of the object being referred to at the time of call. Okay. So this is about the explanation of the program. So note, readers familiar with C++ C-hash will recognize that overridden methods in Java are similar to the virtual functions in those languages. In C++, we have the virtual functions chapter. Okay, in virtual functions, whatever the concept is there, same thing you can consider method overriding concept in Java. That only they are telling. Okay, you just see here. Readers familiar with C++ and C#, that is C has .NET. Will recognize that overridden methods in Java are similar to the virtual functions in those languages. So if you people have virtual functions notes or recorded videos, you can watch. You will come to know a little bit idea. You will get it how it is similar to the method overriding. Or else I'll send the recorded videos of virtual functions today. So if you are free, you can go through that and you will get an idea. Okay. So remaining topics: why overridden methods, then abstract classes. Okay, so using final to prevent inheritance, these things we will see tomorrow. Okay, I think tomorrow we can complete inheritance chapter. Okay, okay. So if you have any doubts, you can ask.